All right, it's about time for us to begin this evening. It's good to see all of you tonight. As we continue our summer series, let me introduce our speaker. Although he has been around as a part of this congregation, involved with us for a number of years, a lot of years. I was thinking earlier today how long it's been. But Scott Wright is with us. Of course, Scott is our son-in-law. Rachel is here with him as well, Carabeth and Tucker. And we're so glad to have them here. Look forward to what he has to say as we continue the theme, the whole armor of God. Scott has been with the Rogersville congregation for 8 years. He is now serving as their pulpit preacher, does an outstanding job. Last year, he began directing the week at Indian Creek with a little bit of assistance from me. Did an outstanding job. Looking forward to that again this year. Let me put a plug in. If you haven't already registered, you plan to go, do so as soon as you can. That'll kind of help us out as far as knowing what we need to do. So we look forward to that. That's just in a few weeks. But right now, he's going to talk to us on the theme, the whole armor of God, talk about the wiles of the devil. Scott, come speak to us.
Good evening. After that introduction, I will simply say that if you don't like what is done tonight, blame yourselves. Because according to Tom, y'all are the reason I am the way I am, so if y'all don't like it, just you ain't got nobody to blame but the mirror. We are, it's a joy to come here anytime we get a chance. We're blessed by a lot of the connections and friendships that are more like family that we have here. And we're thankful for that and thankful for all of you and your support, not only of us individually and personally, but also of the camp. We know how much this congregation has helped with that over the years, and we're very thankful for that. And I appreciate more than just a little bit when it comes to helping me with camp. I continuously call us co-directors because I'm not comfortable saying that I did anything myself. So, with that being said, if you are looking to go to camp this summer, we would love for you to come our week. We'd appreciate that. Take your Bibles, and we're going to start in Ephesians chapter 6. We're not going to stay there very long, but we want to make one observation early as we begin. Ephesians chapter 6, this is your theme text for the summer series. You began in verse number 10, you would see these words, finally. Finally. So consider, if you will, as we begin tonight, these are the things that Paul saw as of utmost importance, because that's what you do at the end of a letter. You come back and say, now here's the thing that I want you to remember. Here's the thing that I want you to keep in mind. Here's the thing that I want you to learn from and apply. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His might. Second thing that you'll notice from the early part of this is His might. It's not yours. You personally cannot do this by yourself. It was never intended to be that way, nor is it that way now. You trying to lift things on your own, you trying to do things by yourself will result in calamity. You won't be able to do it, and then you'll be staring at failure. And a lot of times humans don't do well with failure. We don't know how to get ourselves back up off the ground a lot of times. We don't know how to fix what was broken. We don't know how to correct the errors oftentimes. And so oftentimes that leads to even more failure. And so if I am to look at the spiritual walk, if you will, the journey, and say, I'm going to do this all by myself, and truthfully, you're setting yourself up for failure. And so that's what Paul says, be strong in the Lord and in His might. Now, verse 11, put on the whole armor of God. That is a directive, that is not a suggestion. For the one that follows Christ, they are expected to put on the whole armor of God. Expectation is an interesting thing. When you have an expectation of what you will receive and you get it, typically there's not this overjoyed reaction because you expected it. You expected it, so you're not overjoyed when you get it because you thought it was coming anyway. What happens, though, is when you expect something and you don't get it, you cannot help but be distraught over that, heartbroken over that, even disappointed perhaps. And so there is this idea that you need to at least keep in mind that when, in verse 11, it says, put on the armor of God, it is an expectation given by God. I expect you to put this armor on. It's why when Jesus was talking about this very concept, he will say at the end of time that when we look at God, we can only say, we are your loyal subjects, your servants, and our service to you is nothing more than filthy rags. It's what we were expected to do. But now notice this, following the expectation, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against. So a confrontation is at hand. Verse 11 presents a confrontation. That confrontation is a frightening one. It's a frightening one because the enemy that you are going up against is not an enemy like you would see anywhere else in the world. It's not an enemy like you would read about in books or see in movies. The enemy that you are going up against is the most wicked, evil enemy that's ever existed. And so it is the expectation for the one who's going into battle that you are fully prepared for the battle. Otherwise, the expectation of victory should be far from your mind. You should expect to lose if you do not put on the whole armor of God because your enemy is of a different level. So there's that confrontation. You have an expectation there in verse number 11, put on the whole armor of God. Now you have a confrontation that's introduced in verse 11. But then is this third thing, the schemes or the wiles of the devil. Scheme is probably a word that we're far more accustomed to in our modern day vocabulary. Wile is not necessarily something that we use quite often, but scheme we understand. You'll even hear in modern day commercials, they'll talk about things being or not being a get-rich-quick scheme. You'll hear people talking about how when in a football arena, they'll say the defense is scheming for this particular offense. So scheme is a little more of a word that we're accustomed to. But you need to understand something about the word being used here, wile or scheme. There is no positive connotation to it. There is no spin in which you could say, well, I know a lot of it might be bad, but there's no connotation for that because the devil has no conscience. He has no conscience. Typically, in your movies, your books, stories, even in your everyday life, you will say the following things about the villain. He did some really bad things. She did some really bad things, but. And a lot of movies and a lot of stories have gone out of their way, TV shows and series have gone out of their way to have what they call a redemption arc for a character. What they mean by that is someone who was wicked is now good. So someone who started out as the villain or the enemy has made strides throughout the story, and at the end of the story comes out as part of the heroic effort at the end. Many stories are centered around this, but the truth is about this particular story that there is no redeemable quality about the devil. You cannot say about the devil, well, I know he did some bad stuff before, but that conversation does not belong. Everything that he does is centered around evil and wickedness and failure and guilt. Everything he does, everything he says, everything he even puts out in thought form is intended to create harm, havoc, and despair. He has no conscience. He does not care about what you feel unless it is guilt, sorrow, or pain. Those things he cares about. He has a plethora of weapons to use. There's people sitting in here tonight who may have had this thought in their mind, I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm scared to find out. Devil loves to feast on that. He loves to take your fear and he manipulates it and he works it into panic. And then he tortures you with it. Some people are here tonight and guilt is just the thing that you are trying desperately to carry, but every single time you seem to get a step or two ahead, it just throws you backwards. And you think in your mind, you're thinking, there's no way, even if I did admit to what was going on in my life, nobody would be there to help me. Nobody would care. Nobody loves me enough to love me through that. Nobody loves me enough to love me in spite of. Nobody. Now pause right there. I didn't do this for effect, I promise. But I caused a mechanical failure somehow. It is my fault? Okay, great. Good. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic, the devil. It's good to know I can still break stuff. Okay, don't mind me. Just broke a microphone 12 minutes in. That's a new record. Great. Okay, now, do I start over? Is that what I do now, Tom? You know, it's really good to be here. Really thankful for the invitation. Right? Sorry. Now, this is going to be the fun part. You know what? Never mind. We're good. Y'all just don't pay attention to this wadded up piece of wire. Here's the ultimate suggestion that I can make to you. Have you ever thought about the cliche, they lost the battle, but they won the war? Have you ever heard that before? Here's the thing that makes him really, really interesting. Is he cares nothing about winning the war. He already knows he lost it. So the only thing he cares about is winning the battle. You know what that's? It keeps cutting out. I can talk loud enough, I promise. I can talk loud enough. I'm broke too. Let's start over again. You know, it's really good to be here. Appreciate the invitation. Think a lot of this place. I want one. Can I do this? I can do this? Cool. Awesome. Now, where was I? No, I'm just kidding. If you've heard the cliche or I've understood the cliche before, they lost the battle, won the war. The devil cares nothing about winning a war that he's already lost. So he knows all he has to do is keep winning battles. It's the equivalent of someone who, really truthfully, they don't even care about the outcome. They just want to hurt as many people as they can. Now, I want you to consider, in that frame of mind, if you were to go to a basketball game or a football game and you were to watch a player and you could tell from the opening minute of the game that player didn't care about scoring, that player didn't care about running a play, that player was only out there to try to hurt somebody. Now, what would your assumption be about that person? Would you look at them and say, I tell you what, that's the kind of guy I believe in right there? The guy that just elbowed 3 people and tried to hurt them. That's the guy I want to be like. No, of course not. But see, the devil's smarter than that. It's not blatant. That's blatant. You could see that. You could look at that and go, I know what that kid's doing. I know what he's trying to do. The devil knows that you would recognize that early, so he's subtle. He's real subtle. And so what he does is he takes aim at the little things. And he says, here's what I can do. I can't win the war, but I can kill as many as I possibly can touch before the war ends. So his goal is not outright victory. His goal is just as much pain, sorrow, and grief as he can bring. So you say, what does that look like? Now take your Bible and turn to Matthew chapter 4. Matthew chapter 4, and I want to make a couple of observations here in Matthew chapter 4 to show you what he's trying to do, because I don't believe that any of us in this room specifically, or even watching online, I don't think that any of us are naive to believe that the devil doesn't operate or work today. I don't think anybody believes that. But I do think where we are confused, or perhaps we don't really truly understand our enemy, is that we believe that he's going to be blatant and showy about what he's doing. You look at a TV show and you see all manner of wickedness on the TV show, that's obvious, and you say, I don't want any part of that. You go to a place of business and they objectify women, or they observe certain types of things, or they promote certain types of things, and that's pretty easy. You walk in and go, yeah, I'm not going to give them my business. The devil's aware of all of that. See, that's a human mindset. That's a man-made brain consideration. The devil says, I can do better than that. What I'll do is, while you're sitting at home alone, I'll just pop the thought in your head that, a few years ago, that thing that you said to that person, they still haven't forgiven you for that. There's a reason why they don't talk to you anymore. And you're the reason. And you sit at home and you kind of think about that, and you hadn't thought about that in months, probably, maybe even years. All of a sudden, you just have this random, seemingly, thought. That thing you did 10 years ago. If anybody finds out about that. You know what's going to happen, right? If anybody finds out about it, you know what's going to happen. And see, the devil is so good at that. Give him credit. Give him credit. If you don't give your enemy credit, then you can't know how to defeat him. So give him credit. He's really, really good at subtly dropping pieces of information like breadcrumbs. And he expects you to connect the dots. So when you look at Matthew chapter 4, the one thing that the devil never seemed to learn is how not to be arrogant. It's the one thing he never seemed to learn. We know that he was sent down from heaven like a lightning bolt, Jesus said. And there have been so many writings and things about the interaction between the devil and God. And you think about Job chapter 1, when he walks up to God as though he has some type of authority to speak to God, and he is disrespectful to God, right to his face, as it were. God says, have you considered my servant Job a blameless man? He said, that's not true. It's not true. You're a liar. He'll blame you. Just take his stuff away. And even when all of that failed, do you see the devil again in Job 42? No, you don't. You know why? Because he lost. But do you know what the truth is about the devil? He didn't care that he lost. He caused pain. He caused grief. He caused sorrow. So in his mind, he won. Even though at the end of it, Job is more in love with God than he ever had been before, the devil doesn't care. He got to cause havoc and destruction. So everything we know about the devil is simply this. He is a nasty enemy, but the one thing he never learned is how not to be arrogant. So Matthew chapter 4, he takes that arrogance to an unbelievable level. When he attempts to tempt and cause the Son of God to sin. That's his idea. That's his great plan, right? Now, you and I, we look at this and we say, well, we know how this story goes and we know how it ends. We know all the different pieces and parts of this story. But what I want you to realize is nothing about what the devil tries to get people to do has changed. Nothing about who he is or what he's trying, none of that has changed, because for every bit he is the greatest villain in the history of the known world, he's the stupidest enemy, because he continues to go after the one being he cannot defeat. Even when you get to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, you remember Paul talking about death being the final enemy. You understand that when Paul says that, it is a direct insult through inspiration to the devil. It is a direct insult to the devil. He said, I've already beaten you. I've already beaten you. I own you. So the only thing you had left to hang over everybody was the fear of death. The only thing you had to hang over everybody was death itself. And Jesus said, and I defeated that too. So when Paul writes that through inspiration, that is a direct shot at the devil. O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting? That is a direct shot. Satan, you got nothing left. You tried. You really tried. But you've got nothing left. So what that means for me and you is the only way that the devil succeeds is if we let him. If we let him. That's the only way he succeeds. Because he can't win the war, but he can win some battles. So you look at Matthew chapter 4, beginning in verse number 1. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil, and after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. And the tempter came and said to him, if you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread. But he answered, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. Then the devil took him to the holy city and set him on the pinnacle of the temple and said to him, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself down. For it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone. Jesus said to him, again it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, all these I will give you if you fall down and worship me. Then Jesus said to him, begone, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and were ministering to him. Let's notice a handful of things here out of this section. First of all, in each of the devil's comments, did you notice how he began those comments? The first two specifically. If you are the Son of God. Did you notice he didn't say that the third time? You ever considered that? Satan seems to have sort of a role going here. If you're the Son of God, do this. If you're the Son of God, do that. And then the third one, he doesn't say, if you're the Son of God. Have you ever thought about why? Because I firmly believe that the devil knew who he was. The reason I believe that is because in Luke chapter 4, when Jesus preaches to his own hometown, and they push him out of the city and threaten to throw him off a cliff, he goes from there and he casts out a demon. And the demon actually speaks up to Jesus. And here's what the demon says. What have you to do with us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. Did you catch the pronoun change? What have you to do with us, a collective? And then there is the shift. I know who you are. See, I think Satan knew who Jesus was. And I think when he asks him these first two things, if you're the Son of God, it's almost as though, can I get him angry enough? Then he realizes he can't get him angry enough. And so then he goes to the thing that nobody would turn down. All of this I'll give you. All of this I'll give you if you just fall down and worship me. That's the first thing I want you to notice. The second thing is the different appetites that Satan plays to. In verse number 4, you see a physical appetite. A physical appetite. Jesus had fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. The Bible tells you up front through inspiration that he was hungry. I cannot imagine. I don't like to go very long without eating, as you can probably tell. But the truth is, when you go for longer than a few hours, you start to notice that your body says, we're used to eating at this time. If you've ever been sick where you haven't felt like eating and you've gone 24 hours, let's say, without eating something, your body starts to scream at you, hey, we're used to eating something. You need to eat something. Many of us, our bodies will eventually begin to shut down if we don't partake in some kind of a meal. So Jesus has gone for 40 days and 40 nights, and he's hungry. And so Satan starts with the physical appetite. Physical appetite. If you are the Son of God, take these stones and turn them into loaves of bread. I don't know about you, but if you're really, really hungry and somebody says all you got to do basically is snap your fingers and you can have something to eat, it's probably going to be pretty difficult to turn that down. Especially when your mindset is focused in on the hunger. And so if you don't think that Satan wouldn't take advantage of that, then you don't know your enemy. Would he scheme against you using hunger or thirst or physical exhaustion? Oh, yes, he would. Oh, yes, he would. He would love it if you were at a point physically where you were exasperated, exhausted, frustrated. He would love that, because then that's when he can subtly just suggest, well, you could. And you know what? Sadly, a lot of people do. Addiction is a scary, frightening thing. And addiction, I was reading an article not long ago about addiction, and it was talking about addiction and appetite and their connection to one another. And the concept that addiction is literally built off of an insatiable appetite. That's what addiction actually is. You can never have enough. You can never have enough, but you assume each and every time that the next time you'll have enough. And that's what addiction plays on. It plays on this concept that you have, which is incorrect. The incorrect picture in your brain is, I didn't get enough this time, I'll get enough next time. Next time will be different. Next time will be different. And then the next time, it's not different. But you know what your brain tells you? Well, I didn't get what I wanted this time, but I'll get it next time. And that's the picture of addiction. It lives and breathes off of this physical appetite. Your body says, you got to have it, you got to have it, you got to have it. If you don't have it, you're going to die. And so you think, well, I don't want to die. And, nobody else would want me to die, right? So, consider the times when you've been tempted to stray from the path of righteousness. It does not typically arrive when you are aware and fully aware of how blessed you are. It typically arrives when you're physically drained or you're lacking in some way. That's when temptation seems to put its hooks in you. The second appetite that you see is in verse 6. It is the mental or emotional appetite. Satan tells Jesus, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself off of this cliff. Now, there is a mental capacity here that Jesus says, obviously, don't put the Lord your God to a test. But I wanted you to consider the emotional appetite that's here. Everybody wants to be taken care of. It's one of mankind's most base elements, is the desire to be cared for, the desire to be loved, the desire to be seen as important. It's what every human wants at some level. So did you notice what Satan quotes? He quotes to Jesus a passage that would insinuate nothing's going to happen to you. If you jump off of this cliff, nothing's going to happen to you, because didn't your scriptures say that you won't hit the ground. So there is an emotional ploy put in by the devil here. Jesus, don't you understand? There are people wanting to take care of you. All you got to do is jump. All you got to do is jump. If you jump, they're going to take care of you. They're not going to let you hit the ground. Would Satan scheme against you by telling you some lies or maybe even some half-truths? Yeah, he'd be glad to. He might look at you and tell you something that on its front actually sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty normal. Sounds like something you'd want to do. Jesus, if you are the Son of God, you can jump off of here right now. Nothing's going to happen to you. And I'd be proven wrong about you. You see the mental games being played here? And you say, what does that look like in my life? Well, you see, Satan is a fisherman of sorts. It's kind of his deal. It's kind of his game. He puts things out there as bait that at the forefront don't look that bad. You think about, I'm not a big fisherman, but I know people that are. You go fishing and you put something on the hook, and you put the hook out into the water, right? You are expecting the fish to do what? Go after the lure, right? The bait. That's what you expect the fish to do. What the fish looks at and says, ooh, that's lunch. The fish doesn't think there's a possibility that if I bite down on this bait, a hook is going to go into the side of my mouth and I'm going to be pulled out of this water. That never crosses the fish's mind. Never. The fish sees the bait, the fish takes the bait, the fisherman brings in the fish, right? That's how it works. Satan is a fisherman of sorts. He loves to play mind games and he loves to play with your emotions. And what he's doing is he's getting you in such a position where when he offers the bait, you think, well, that looks awful good. That looks awful good. And I mean, honestly, truthfully, I mean, if it looks this good, it probably is this good, right? How many times have you heard throughout your life, if it seems too good to be true, what? It probably is. Guess what the deal is with Satan? If it seems too good to be true, it always is. Because he's a liar. He's been a liar from the beginning. John chapter 8, that's what Jesus boldly said to some Pharisees. He said, you are the sons of your father. And your father is a liar, and he's been a liar and a murderer from the very beginning. That's who he is. That's who he is. He has no problem preying on your mental issues that you may be going through. He has no issue. He has no conscience. He has no issue with taking your emotional need for someone to love you and care about you and using that to tempt you. He has no conscience. The third appetite that you see is in verse number 9. It's a spiritual appetite. This one is the one that is strange in the sense that it seems as though Satan is admitting defeat. And so it's a Hail Mary, a last-ditch effort. So he says, let me take you up to this high place. Let me show you all the kingdoms of the world, and I'll give you everything if you fall down and worship me. You see, the reason why I think this is interesting is because the first two seem to be well thought out plots and ploys. If you're the Son of God, turn the stones to bread. What does that have to do with anything? Well, he's starving. He's hungry. If you are the Son of God, throw yourself off this building and the angels will catch you because they won't let you get hurt. You see, there's this well thought out physical and mental and emotional ploy that Satan is making with Jesus. And then it's like a last ditch effort. All this I'll give you if you'll fall down and worship me. Would the enemy really present himself to be God-like just to get to you? Yes, Would he use some of the same vocabulary that the deity of God uses in an effort to trick you? Yes, he would. See, the spiritual side of this is, I want you to give up what you know is right in favor of what you want. Truthfully, I think you know what this looks like in our modern day world, don't you? Is it true or not true that there are, quote, preachers, end quote, who will say whatever it takes to get people in the building? It's true. Is it true or is it not true that people will bend to Scripture so that people can feel, I guess, more welcome in, for lack of a better term, churches? Yes, it's true. Is it true that men and women who are claiming to be followers of Christ have used those positions to hurt and harm other people? The answer to that is yes. 2 days ago, I read a post written by a man named Michael Tate. If you don't know who Michael Tate is, that's fine. It's not a major ordeal, but Michael Tate was a singer for two of the more popular Christian contemporary groups of the last 30 years. He was the lead singer for DC Talk, and then he became the lead singer for a group called Newsboys. Michael Tate 2 days ago wrote a post admitting that he had used his position as a famous singer to groom young men to be his sexual servants. He admitted in this same post that he had used his position to gain access to cocaine, heroin, and other hardcore drugs. Are there people out there that will spiritually deceive others for their own gain? Sadly, yes. And so when you see this, you need to know that is of the devil. The time will come when the people will have itching ears and they will no longer desire to hear the truth, but they will desire to have those ears tickled. That's what Paul told Timothy. Yeah, but we don't see that in churches of Christ anywhere, right? That doesn't happen in the churches of Christ. In the churches of Christ, we have only solid gospel people who would never, ever, ever tempt or confuse or mislead anyone, right? Wrong. Wrong. And in each and every situation that I can personally think of right now, do you know what many of those people would tell you right to your face? They would look you in the eye and they would say, look, I don't know what happened, but I got to a point where what I wanted became more important than what was right. Where do you think that comes from? Did they just dream that up one night sitting in their bedroom and they just dreamed up how they could cause the most harm to the most number of people? Did they come up with that themselves? No, of course they didn't. That's right out of the devil's playbook. If I can't get you with a physical appetite, maybe that's not your deal. Maybe that's not your deal. Well, maybe I can play on your mental or emotional state. Maybe that's not your deal either. Maybe it's, my feelings, I try not to let my feelings govern who I am, etc. It's not my thing either. You know what Satan says? Okay, fine. Here's what I'll do. I'm going to wait till you're sitting at church. And I'm going to wait till the preacher gets up there. And then I'm going to have you think about where you're going to lunch. Then I'm going to have you think about what all you got to get at the store this afternoon. Then I'm going to have you think about what TV shows you're supposed to be watching or recording right now. And then I'm going to have you start thinking about the football team that you pull for and what they need to do. And if they just let you coach them, you'd fix it all. And then you look up and guess what? Somebody's standing up here leading the invitation song and it's all said and done, it's all over. You know what Satan does? He laughs at you. So I got you. I got you. I won a battle. I won today. You were in there amongst all those other people claiming to be Christians. You know what you were doing? Thinking about anything except the Bible and what God would have you to know. I win. I win. Now, here's the other thing I'm going to do to you. When you get home, on your way home probably, I want you to complain about the preacher. I want you to tell your wife how sorry he is. I want you to tell your spouse in front of the kids how we sing the same 4 songs every Sunday. And you're so sick and tired of hearing those same 4 songs. And I want you to tell them how much you hate it when brother so-and-so leads the opening prayer because you know you're going to be there for a month. Because he's going to pray over everybody in the bulletin. He's going to pray over the pantry item. He's going to pray over everybody in everybody else's bulletin. I want you to do that. And I want you to really get on your soapbox and tell your spouse in front of your kids what's wrong with the church and what they ought to do. So that when you get home, your kids go to their room, and in their mind they're thinking, why would anybody want to go there? And they go to school the next day, and here's what they do. Some kid comes up to him and says, well, did you go to church yesterday? Yeah, but God, it was awful. It was awful. Same 4 songs every Sunday. Brother so-and-so led the opening prayer, lasted an hour and a half. And that person they're talking to, guess what they do? Why would anybody want to go there? You know what Satan's doing? Laughing at us. I won again. I won again. And if I get enough of those wins, you'll quit caring enough to do right. You'll stop caring. Because you'll start caring far more about not being bored. You'll start caring far more about where you're going to eat at lunch. You'll stop caring about the Word of God that's being presented to you. And you'll start caring about yourself more than you care about righteousness. And Satan says, when I do that, I got you. You took the bait. You took the bait, and the hook is in, and you're going to have a hard time getting it out. 1 John chapter 2, John would say that these schemes of the devil, they haven't changed. John puts a little different spin on them. He calls them in some translations the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. Some translations, which I think is closer to the original, is the lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and the pride in one's possessions. See, Satan hadn't changed his game. Lust of the eyes, yeah, it's pretty easy to tell what that is. That's that mental, emotional side of you that you see something, want something, and now I got to have it. Lust of the flesh, that's pretty simple too. That is, I'm hungry and I want. And I want. That's my appetite. Pride in one's possessions, that means I love them more than I love God. As we close, just consider that the answer to what to do about this is a singular focus on God and what He says. God knows what's in front of you. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 13, with the temptation He has provided a way of escape. God is faithful. That's what the Scripture says. So believe that. Believe that. And believe that God has provided for you not only a way of escape, but a way of life that will prevent the schemes of the devil from taking their hook. You're going to talk about at some point in this series, you're going to talk about the shield of faith. And in that, you have the very idea that we're speaking about, where God has granted unto us the ability to develop faith in something. Faith in God, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Faith in something that you can't see necessarily, but you know it's there. That's the very shield that's spoken of in Ephesians chapter 6. So let me close with this. The schemes of the devil are not going away. They will not cease until this life is over. the only change that can be made is within us. I appreciate your attention this evening.
If you will, take a songbook and turn to number 868. Number 868. That's the invitation song that Dale has chosen. We'll sing that just a few moments at the close of our service. Caleb Dunaway has our closing prayer. Good to see everybody with us tonight. Those of you visiting, we're glad you're here as well. And appreciate, Scott, the lesson that you brought to us tonight, even though I think the devil tried to silence you a couple of times. But we were able to work through that. But, appreciate that. He will extend our invitation in just a few moments. I have just a few announcements before that. On our sick list tonight, Hannah Weichert, this is the young girl that had the bump on the head and some problems from that Sunday morning. All of the tests they ran came out clear. She's doing much better. They actually had planned to go on vacation. Oh, there they are. So my next statement, they said they would be back as soon as they could. There they are. We're so thankful that Hannah's doing well, and I know from Blake and Juliana, they want to thank you for the prayers that you offered on their behalf. Leo Briggs is scheduled to have an MRI tomorrow. This is going to be in Birmingham. He's been suffering from migraines. They're trying to determine the source of that. And also remember Jennifer Dearman's mother, Sharon Smith, just recently been diagnosed with breast cancer. Keep her in your prayers as well. A number of people in our bulletin that we regularly remember. Be sure to keep all these in your thoughts and prayers. Anybody we need to add to that list this evening? Some things coming up. Remember, Vacation Bible School begins Sunday. Sunday evening will be our first session. Keep it in your prayers. Keep it in your plans between now and then. After tonight, they'll be beginning to make some changes in the classrooms. Be sure and keep that in mind. I know our children like to go around in the building. There'll be a lot of things that you want to make sure they are not able to damage. And so be sure and keep that in mind this evening. For Sunday morning, be ready to take anything that you have on the pews with you. Because obviously we'll have a lot of visitors. People will be in different places. So we'll do that at least by Sunday morning. Also, Libby said she needs to meet with all of the girls 10 years old and up through teenage years and their mothers tonight right down front. And then one other announcement. It's a note of sympathy to the Thomas Kinney or T.J. Kinney family who passed away Monday. He had just recently retired from Union Hill. He was the ag teacher there and passed away on Monday. We want to keep his family, his widow's name Jennifer, keep them in your thoughts and your prayers over the coming days. Anything further that I need to mention tonight as it relates to announcements? All right. As I said earlier, Scott Wright with us. We appreciate the lesson that he brought this evening, and he's going to come and extend our invitation.
1 John chapter 3 and verse number 8 says this: "Whoever makes a practice of sinning is of the devil, for the devil has been sinning from the beginning." The idea there is pretty simple. You must understand the concept of one who practices sinning. And the idea is one who lives in sin, one who is constantly given over to temptation, and one who is constantly and consistently choosing their own selfishness over what they know to be right. The interesting side note is what follows after that statement. Here is what John writes: "The reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the works of the devil." So I want you to consider tonight just one simple thought. Are you living in sin? Are you making a practice or a habit of sinning? Because if you do, then the Bible is explicitly clear that you are of the devil. If you don't believe that to be true, your argument is not with the church, your argument is not with the preacher, your argument is not with the elders. If you are making a practice of sinning, and you don't believe that you are of the devil, your argument is with the very words of God. Tonight, if you are practicing sin and you want to see that finally removed from your life, then give yourself over to the one who was sent to destroy the very works of the one who tempts you. If you've never been baptized for the remission of your sins, we would beg and plead with you to do that before it is too late. Because as much as we might love to plan ahead and think that we've got years and years and years, that is just another ploy that the devil loves to use. He'll make you believe that you've got all the time in the world. But let me share this thought with you as we close. The graveyard is full of a lot of people who thought they had a lot more time. Tonight, if you need to make things right in your life, come right now while we stand and while we sing.
In vain and high and holy lays my soul, a grateful voice would raise, for who can sing the worthy praise of the wonderful love of Jesus? Wonderful love, wonderful love, wonderful love of Jesus. Wonderful love, wonderful love, wonderful love of Jesus. My hope for pardon when I call my trust for lifting when I fall in life and death. My hope in all is the wonderful love of Jesus. Wonderful love, wonderful love, wonderful love of Jesus. Wonderful love, wonderful love, wonderful love of Jesus.
Bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the wonderful blessings you give us to work and to learn. Thank you for the opportunity you give us to come together with like-minded Christians and dig deeper into your word. Please let us take the thoughts and the messages that we've heard tonight and apply them to our everyday lives and draw others closer to you. Thank you most of all for your Son who came and sacrificed himself for us and gave us the perfect example. Please let us strive to be like him each and every day. In Christ.